Welcome to the Complete Story series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. We then read them dramatically back to you, adding in some music, some voices, and we give you a motion comic. The idea behind this series is to allow you to know what is happening in your favorite comic books so that you can go out and buy the next issue, or tell you what's happening in your favorite movie so you know what's going on in the sequel, or tell you what's happening in your favorite video game that takes 100 hours to beat so that you can buy the sequel to that. Today we're going to be covering Red Hood Outlaw, a much requested storyline here at Comicstorian. When we last left off with Red Hood, he had finally snapped and taken a shot at the Penguin. He had supposedly killed him. Artemis and Bizarro had been sucked into a wormhole, and they are now currently stranded elsewhere in a different dimension, leaving Red Hood exiled from Gotham and now on a warpath. He's decided to take his vigilante justice out into the Midwest because they don't have a superhero to protect them, and why not send a superhero with guns and a need to kill? This is Red Hood Outlaw.
When we last left off with Red Hood, he seemingly had killed the Penguin. This had Batman exile him from Gotham. Bizarro and Artemis had fallen into the multiverse, ending up in a different planet, a different universe. Now, it's in the middle of nowhere America, with Jason sitting on an empty bus as the bus driver tries to make small talk with him. Jason lets the man go for a bit, but then he tells him to stop. The bus driver says that he really doesn't have to be rude about it, and Jason points, telling him, up ahead, someone's on the road. The bus comes to a screeching halt and Jason tells the bus driver to open up the door. The bus driver says that he can't. That would be an unauthorized stop and he could lose his job. Jason says that, or you could lose your teeth. The door opens up and Jason steps out, with an injured woman in the road telling Jason to get back on the bus. Her name is Special Agent Melissa Mitchell of the FBI, and she's ordering him to leave. It is not safe for him to get involved. Jason leans down and picks Melissa up, stating, "Yeah, I'm not leaving without you." Once he sets her down on the bus driver asks what happened to her. She tells them that her and her partner were dispatched to pick up a fugitive crime boss, except the boss had other plans. She barely escaped with her life, but her partner, she witnessed the execution of a federal agent. Just then, a light shines on the bus, and a group of bikers appear in the street. The leader of the group holds up a bottle of alcohol and a flare, shouting to the bus driver to send out the FBI agent, and no one gets hurt. They got 1 minute to respond. Jason gets back out of the bus telling them, "That's good. That leaves us 45 seconds of free time." The biker asks, "What do you reckon you're gonna do with that time?" And Jason tells him, "First, I'm gonna beat the crap out of your friends, and then I'm gonna shove that flare up your, well, you get the idea." The biker shouts to the others to kill this punk, and just as he finishes, Jason kicks him in the face, taking the bottle and the flare. As the other bikers begin to run up, he lights the bottle, throwing it into the crowd, covering them in flames. More begin to show up, and as they charge in, Jason grabs one with his own chains and then he throws them at the others. One man with a knife lunges in out of the fires, and as he goes to stab Jason, Jason steps out of the way, taking the knife, slamming it into the man's neck. The remaining men grab their guns and they open fire. But before anyone can hit Jason, he runs through, stabbing one of the gunmen and taking his gun, killing the rest of them. With everyone dead, the leader of the group begins to scoot back, telling him, "Please don't kill me." Jason reaches down, grabbing the flare from the man's mouth that he shoved in and telling him, "You have bad memory. I didn't say I was going to kill you." After making good on his promise, Jason gets back on the bus and Melissa asks where is he going. He pulls out a mask from his bag and he says he's going to work. Melissa pulls her gun, telling him she knows who he is. The mask changed, but he's still the same guy who tried to assassinate Cobblepot. "You're under arrest. I can't let you walk out of here." As Jason finishes getting changed, he puts on his mask and he says, "The only reason I'm even here is because me and a friend are tracking down a drug ring with ties to Underlife. Your situation indicates to me that I'm on the right track. Besides, in your current shape, you're not stopping anything." Melissa tells him that he can't go. She's an officer of the law. And as Jason gets off the bus, he asks, "How did the law work out for your partner?" A short while later, down at the County Sheriff Department building, Sheriff Bradford tells the crime boss, LaCroix, to please be reasonable. He came up with a cover story, but before he can, they're going to need to get out of there before the FBI comes around looking for their dead agent. LaCroix says no. He and his men aren't going anywhere until they get the lady agent's carcass. Just then the lights go out, and Jason jumps through the window wielding a crowbar. One of the thugs begins to open fire where Jason landed, but then he stops when he sees nothing. Bradford grabs his flashlight and he calls out that he doesn't know who he is, but I'm the sheriff around these parts. Jason hits the sheriff in the throat, knocking him out, and LaCroix asks, "Do you know who I am?" "I'm a part of Underlife. That makes me untouchable." Jason cracks LaCroix from behind, telling him, "I just touched you. What does that make me? Using the crowbar, he beats down the men, killing them with it. As Bradford gets up, he runs to his desk, calling for help over the radio, but when he doesn't get an answer, he notices Jason standing there, holding the plug. Jason starts to walk forward, telling him, "A week ago, I never even heard of Underlife. Now it's the only thing that anyone is talking about, so tell me everything." Bradford cowers, begging Jason not to kill him. If he says anything, Underlife will kill him. And Jason tells him, "Did I somehow give you the impression that I wouldn't kill you?" Meanwhile, outside, the Crow runs to one of the only patrol cars with keys, and when he turns on the lights, he sees Jason leaning against a wall. He plugs his ears, and the Crow says, "I don't get it." And then he looks down at the steering wheel, and he sees a note. Boom. Later that night at the hospital, Melissa turns off the news, and she asks if he's going to stand there all night, or actually turn himself in. Jason tells her neither. "Here, this belonged to your partner. I figured you'd want it." He hands Melissa the badge to her partner, and she says that his family will be very grateful. She's grateful. She then says that she's a little surprised that a Gotham crime boss would be so sentimental. Jason tells her that he recently lost 2 partners himself. Melissa tells him that this goes against every rule in the book, but she could use some of his expertise on this. Jason gets ready to leave through the window, telling her, "Yeah, because that always works out. Believe me, the last thing that you need is this outlaw." The next night at the diner, a trucker sits at the bar telling Molly the waitress, "Come on, give me your 7 digits. I'll guess the area code." Molly says, like she said before, she's pretty sure that her boyfriend wouldn't like that, so he's gonna have to settle for coffee. Jason sits next to the man, stating, "Make it 2. The trucker then asks if there's a reason that he's sitting there when there's open chairs to stretch out in. And Jason tells him that he's curious and he wanted to know if he can help him. He knows the truck out there is hauling $3 million in stolen medical supplies for Underlife. But you're going south. What's south? Texas, New Mexico, south of the border? The trucker says, "I'm afraid you're going to be scratching your head for a while." Jason tells him, "Or you could be spitting the answer out along with your teeth." The trucker laughs as he grabs his knife, but before he could pull it out, Jason breaks the sugar dispenser across the trucker's face. As the rest of the truckers get up, Jason knocks them all out one by one until he's punched in the face by a massive fist. He groans, telling the large man, Tiny, that he should get license plates for those fists. Tiny puts his fist together, telling him, "We aren't a bunch of yokels. The Underlife united us. We're a part of something bigger. Nowhere. But you're just a dead man walking." Just then, there's a quiet plink and Tiny falls to the ground. Jason looks back and he sees Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, standing there, out of costume. He gets up stating, "If you're here to fight, can you give me a second? I gotta recover." Bruce tells him, "I'm not here to fight. Sit." Bruce gives Jason a cup of coffee and Jason takes a sip, asking, "Don't you think it's a little strange? If this is about taking me back to Gotham, it's not gonna happen. Shooting Penguin wasn't a crime, it was a public service." Bruce tells him, "Actually, Cobblepot didn't die, so technically you didn't break our deal. But it sure wasn't for a lack of trying, Jason. Okay? So why are you here, Bruce?" Bruce sips his drink and, after a moment of silence, he puts his hand on Jason's shoulder, telling him, "Roy Harper is dead. I'm sorry." Jason holds his head, and he says, "We just talked last week. How?" Bruce goes on, telling him, "We have a place called Sanctuary." And Jason repeats the line, "Rehab for capes," he said. Bruce continues, "We don't know who or why, but a lot of people were killed there. Trust me when I say that I won't rest until we find out who is responsible." Jason sighs. "It's a lot of people that are going to be out for revenge. No one needs me getting into the mix." And Bruce tells him, "I agree, but Alfred said it was important to let your feelings out." Seriously? Grief counseling from a guy who dresses like a bat? Death isn't the worst thing that can happen to a person. I would know. Am I gonna grieve over him? Yeah. Absolutely. But everyone who has ever put a mask on is living on borrowed time. Roy would be upset if I spent the life that I have left moping around. Even though everyone has either run away or knocked out, Bruce leaves money on the table, and he heads outside. Jason follows, and Bruce asks, "Is there somewhere you need to go?" And Jason tells him, "Actually, no. I just need fresh air." But Bruce, neither of them say a word. They just hug. And in the reflection, we can see Red Hood hugging Batman. Jason pulls back and he tells him, "Thank you for coming out to tell me yourself. I know it wasn't easy since, we hate each other. I never hated you, not for a single moment. I won't deny that maybe you need to get your ass kicked once in a while. But at the end of the day, I know we both have each other's backs." Later down the road, Jason takes out his phone to make one last call to Roy. He leaves a message and he says that he just heard what happened. This is exactly why he'll never try and get his head together. He just wanted to tell him that he may have been a mediocre archer, but you were the best friend I ever had, Roy. Next time we meet, I'm gonna kick your butt for this whole dying crap, buddy. Jason hangs up his phone, then he hovers his thumb over the delete contact for Roy. The next morning, Jason finds himself walking through Appleton, home of the world's best cobbler. Everyone here is friendly, like the complete opposite of Gotham. There's just an all-around positive vibe coming out of this place. Heck, even the older couple running the inn are as sweet as pie. No pun intended. Jason steps out onto the porch thinking that it's a real shame that he's gonna have to tear this place down, brick by brick. And as he looks out onto the town, there's someone else looking in on him. The next day, Jason watches the townspeople as they attend the Apple Days Fair. Jason tries to find something out of place when a woman walks up stating that she just sees someone with an empty mouth. He didn't come all this way to their humble little town to miss their world-famous apple pie, did he? Jason tells the woman that he appreciates it, but he's not really an apple pie kind of guy. But while he's talking, the woman says nonsense, stucking a fork full of pie in his mouth. He chews, stating, "Okay, that's actually delicious." She laughs, telling him to enjoy his time in Appleton. He then notices the innkeepers at their cider booth, and they call Jason over for a drink. He takes a glass, stating that everyone here is so hospitable. He holds it up, and he sees the reflection of the old man grabbing a gun. The man opens fire, with Jason kicking the booth, throwing both the woman and the man off balance. The woman grabs a knife, charging after Jason, and as the second man grabs onto him, holding him into place, he shifts his weight, throwing the man over his shoulder, having him stab a woman instead. Jason pulls the knife out of the man, stating that he's pretty sure the Chamber of Commerce isn't going to be thrilled to hear about this, and the old woman shouts that he's gonna die here. So Jason tells her, nah. He looks at the rest of the townspeople surrounding them and he tells them, you all have 10 seconds to walk away. He slowly begins to count, but even before 10 seconds could pass, Jason simply says, screw it, and he begins to fight the crowd back. Even though Jason can hold his own against most odds, a bat to the back and a hammer to his face can really put a dent on that record. After blacking out, he feels something tapping on his face, and when he wakes up, he finds himself on a cross. He looks at a person who's tapping him and he asks, do I know you? The giant Solomon Grundy-looking zombie begins to laugh. The zombie reaches out, grabbing Jason by the chest, and he begins to squeeze down, cracking and breaking his ribs. So he kicks him back, and then he gets ready and he swings. He leans to his side, stating that he really hopes this works, and the zombie ends up punching through the cross, destroying it. The zombie then trips afterwards, though, and as he begins to get back up, Jason takes one of the broken poles, stabbing it into the zombie's back. With the pole sticking out through his chest, the zombie laughs, and as it grabs Jason by the neck, it begins to crush him. He thinks to himself that he generally feels bad about this, but there's no way he's gonna let this happen. So he reaches down, grabbing his hands around the pole, and then he pulls up, ripping through the zombie's torso. As purple and green guts splatter everywhere, Jason falls down, stating that it's a lot grosser than he was expecting. He begins to spit up what fluids got into his mouth, and then he notices that these guts are actually wires. Well, at least the zombie wasn't a real zombie. However, before Jason could even ask anything, he feels a pitchfork poking at his back. He looks back and Batwoman tells him, you're a long way from Gotham. And Jason tells her, you're not a long way from having your ass kicked. Jason grabs onto the end of the pitchfork, pushing it onto the ground, throwing some of the zombie guts into Batwoman's face. She yells at him, that is so gross! And kicks the pitchfork, breaking it in half as Jason tries to shield himself. He tells her, I didn't go back with him. I'm sure as hell not going back with you. And Batwoman tells him, that's that healthy Jason Todd ego. The truth is, we really don't have time for this crap. Jason looks back at the rest of the zombies coming their way and he asks, why couldn't you just open with that? As Batwoman scans the area, she tells Jason that they know that these things are constructs, so they don't have to go easy on them. Jason takes the broken pitchfork, stabbing the handle through the throat of one of the zombies while running in to help. But as he tries to jump away, one of the zombies grabs him by his jacket, throwing him across the field. Batwoman takes out a set of batarangs, throwing them into one of the zombies, but without Jason for support, she quickly gets captured. A few seconds later, the sound of a motorcycle can be heard, and Jason speeds by, throwing a pitchfork into the head of the zombie, holding Batwoman. As he lands, he says, I found another pitchfork. And Batwoman tells him, clearly, nice bike by the way. He revs it up, asking, you coming or not? As the two of them begin to get away, Batwoman brings up a projection of the target mansion and asks, now are you agreeing with the plan? And Jason tells her, fine, let's just go. As he starts to walk, Batwoman stops him, stating that she just wanted to say she's sorry for his loss. She never really got Arsenal, but she did know that they were close. Jason tells her, I'm an asshat. But Roy, he was always too good for this world, deserved better. Batwoman then says that if he ever needs to talk, and Jason stops her, stating, that will never happen, but thanks. As the two begin to take off, Batwoman says that she probably owes him another apology, for getting you and your friends thrown in the Belle Reve. And Jason shrugs it off, telling her, turns out it was all a part of Bizarro's master plan. It was just a role that you were assigned to play. She laughs, asking, so she was tricked into kicking his butt? That's a novel way of looking at it. Just then, one of the zombies lunges out, grabbing the bike from the back wheel, flipping it up into the air. Jason and Batwoman flip off of it, catching themselves, but as the first zombie breaks the bike in half, Jason grabs onto the chain that flies off of it. He jumps over the zombie, using the chain to cut off the head of the zombie, leaving Batwoman to deal with the rest of them. But before she could really attack, she's knocked back and Jason catches her. He says that he would feel guilty about leaving her, and Batwoman wipes her mouth, telling him that if he did stay, she would tear out his lungs through his nose. Go! As Batwoman gets up and runs back into the fight, Jason hurries on ahead, telling her, "You're just so classy." He quickly makes his way to the mansion, but as he walks up, a group of assassins jump out and surround him. He says, "Well, at least you're saving the trouble of knocking." Meanwhile, inside of the mansion, a robot monitors the situation, telling his boss that there is nothing to worry about, ma'am. This place is fortified with the most high tech. Then there's a low whomp sound as the power goes out, and the woman in the shadows asks, "You were saying?" The robot tells her not to worry, the auxiliary power will kick in and they will be, but before he can finish the sentence, the doorway explodes, blasting him away. Jason walks through, stating, "I think the robot was gonna say safe, but now I'm gonna go with damned. You took a whole town hostage and I'm here to liberate them. Oh, and you're the pie lady." The woman from before who fed Jason holds her hands to her hips, stating, "She is much worse than that. She controls underlife territory across 3 states. She is protected in ways that he cannot imagine." He sets down his gun, holding up C4, and he says, "People keep saying that to me, right up to the point before I kill them." The woman lunges forward, punching Jason, shouting that she is also holding the children of Appleton hostage. Kill her, and he will never find them. As Jason kicks her back, he says, "Pfft, Batwoman already located them before she found you. And those punches, so not human. You are hitting way too hard." The woman throws Jason back, stating, "Yeah, she's the latest model of constructs. She didn't birth the others, she's just a distributor." Jason asks, "Birth?" And the woman jumps on him, stating that all of these people were created in a lab in New Mexico, a place called Herve el Agua. Jason uses the chain wrapped around his fist to swipe at the woman's face, yelling, "I don't need an address, I need a name!" As the woman picks herself up, she says that his name is Solitary, and she can die happy knowing that he is going straight to hell. Jason grabs his gun, stating, "Yeah, see you there, pie lady!" And a short while later, as Jason walks out of the mansion, Batwoman asks, "How did it go?" The mansion explodes behind him, and he tells her, "You tell me." As the sun comes up, Batwoman brings all of the children hostages back to their families, and she leaves with Jason. Jason asks, "Do you ever feel like we got it all wrong?" She asks, "How so?" "The bad guys. They're everywhere, even hidden in the middle of nowhere. They're always better financed and equipped. They either hire goon soldiers or apparently make robots now." Batwoman says, "Look, we both have strayed from our original path. He forgave me. Show him that you can learn from your mistakes and he'll forgive you too." Jason tells her, "You shot Clayface because it was the right thing to do. I shot Penguin because I was angry. There's no walking away from that." Just then a car honks the horn and Batwoman says that there she is. She jumps in, telling Montoya to meet Jason Todd, professional drifter. Jason, meet Detective Renee Montoya. Montoya says to hop in, anywhere she can drop him off, and Jason says that he's heading south. As he gets in, Batwoman whispers and asks, "No questions?" And Montoya tells her, "Please, I know better by now. Besides, I'm off till Friday, so south it is." If you're curious about the death of Roy Harper, it actually happened in Heroes in Crisis, and we will be covering that story eventually once it wraps up.
And there you have it, the first part of Red Hood Outlaw. Now, there's a lot to disassemble and digest in this storyline. First off, the new outfit, when drawn correctly, I really enjoy. The current artist on the project is not bad. I actually like a lot of his work, but for some reason, I just don't like the way that he draws Jason Todd in this, but that's just my opinion. What do you guys think about the new outfit down below? On top of that, what do you think about the storyline in general? Because it's interesting. He's fighting a different gang. He's out in the Midwest. He's willing to kill everyone. He's met up with Batman. He's met up with Batwoman at this point. Where's the storyline going to go? And what is going on with Artemis Mazzaro? If you watch our last episode, Red Hood versus Batman, they got sucked into a wormhole, and they're currently lost in the multiverse, and it looks like they're on Earth 3 or potentially the Dark Multiverse. We don't know, but they have not been mentioned yet. So let me know what you think about Red Hood Outlaw in the comments down below. And I'm going to be bringing you a video very soon entitled The Confusing History of Red Hood, because a lot of people don't realize that Red Hood this version is nowhere near what he was brought back as. And I want to tell you guys about that. So subscribe to our channel if you want to keep up to date on Red Hood, Batman, Batwoman, superheroes in general, Spider-Man, Deadpool, all these characters. We also cover things like movies over here. We talk about, hey, we have a 10-year span video coming up talking about all of the MCU to catch you up on that. And we also have things that we have rolling out, such as like the history of Kingdom Hearts, the history of God of War, and various other things. Because comic books, man, they encompass all kinds of pop culture. Either way, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next time at Comicstorian.